Alright guys, as we hinted at before, sometimes companies will not use their whole profit for dividends and divide them out between shareholders. Sometimes they might hold on to some of those profits for a number of different reasons. It could be tax, it could be to expand the company, any sort of thing like that. The question will make it clear. What you have to understand, and which I hinted at before, is that any remaining profits after it's held for these reasons as mentioned before are first distributed to preference shareholders. That is why they're called preference shareholders. They will always get the money that they are owed, and then any profit that is left over after the preference shareholders have got them, that will then be divided between ordinary shareholders. So sometimes this means there's very little or even no money left over for ordinary shareholders to share between all of them. Okay, and there can potentially be very, very many of these shareholders getting very little money. So the example here, again from the book, but I just want to help you work through it instead of just reading it dry from the book. A company's got a share capital of $1 million, $2 10% preference shares. So they have decided that $1 million of the shares they've been divided into are going to be preference shares with a par value of $2, and the preference shareholders will get 10% of that par value. And because they're preference shares, they will definitely get this. And then the remainder of their company is divided into 500,000 ordinary shares. So let's say the company made $1,200,000 profit, but hung on to 30% of that for tax and $150,000 for asset replacement. And we want to see how much money is going to be left over for the ordinary and the preference shareholders. Obviously, this order is going to be different because the preference shareholders will get their money first. So the first step is to work out how much money is being held back from the overall profit. So 30% of the 1,200,000 is going to be held for tax purposes. So 30% as a decimal, 0.3 divided by 1,200,000. That's going to be 360,000 for tax. And 150,000 for asset replacement. And that equals that equals 510,000 held on to of the 1,200,000 profit that the company made. So how much is going to be left to be divided between the preference shareholders first and the ordinary shareholders after? Well, you need to work out the difference. So they had 1,200,000 to start off with, minus 510,000. You're going to have $690,000 of profit left over for both of the types of shareholders, pref and ordinary shareholders. Okay, but the question is asking here, how much will be distributed to the ordinary ones? So we know preference and ordinary shareholders are getting this, and we also know that preference shareholders are going to get theirs first. So we need to work out how much of this money is going to be going to preference shareholders to work out what is going to be left over for the ordinary shareholders. And now that the amount of money, it's not going to be dependent on this. Preference shareholders are always going to get 10% of the $2 par value, and depending on how many there are. So there's 1 million preference shares. So the total dividend, all of the money going to preference shareholders, total dividend to pref shareholders is going to be 1 million, because there's 1 million preference shares the company is divided into, times by the $2 par value times by 10% as a decimal. It's going to be $2 million total par value times by 10%. That's going to be 200,000. So $200,000 of this left over to the shareholders is going to go to all of the preference shareholders. So the money that's left over for the shareholders, 690,000, minus the 200,000 that's going to the preference shareholders. I should put goes to preference shares there. So 690,000. Take the 200,000 going to preference shareholders is going to be $490,000. That is $490,000 left over to divide between all the ordinary shareholders. So this 490,000 is going to be divided between these 500 million shares. Okay, so that is an example of how profit distribution works and how the preference shareholders are paid out first. Their money is set aside first. So we worked out that the company made $1,200,000 profit. $360,000 of that was kept by them for tax. Another $150,000 was kept for asset replacement. So they held on to $510,000 of the $1,200,000. So that means there was $690,000 of profit left over for all of the different shareholders. Okay, but we worked out the amount of money of that profit that's going to go to preference shareholders first, based on the formula we've used before. We worked out that $200,000 of that money goes to the preference shareholders. So whatever's left over, this left over $490,000, is whatever the ordinary shareholders will be sharing. And there's 5 million of them in this example. So hopefully that helps you out with the what is it even called, profit distribution type question. They're a bit involved, but the maths is quite easy. So I will see you on the next video.